nerves kicks in, the body is getting ready to move. And that's what people don't realize, so that nervousness not necessarily is bad. To keep in terms of, physiology of the body, the hormones you're releasing, it is good to keep the heartbeat within 120 beats per minute, which you're going to be your optimal to be able to, perform well for performance. And our game is a bad movement, Reece.
I learn better when I'm having a better time, and I feel like my athletes do the same thing. If it's always, and there's programs that do very well with very strict, hard-nosed, don't talk back to the coach, do what you're supposed to do it harder, do it again. That's not who I am, and I think being authentic is huge in coaching.
Okay.
And that's who I like to be, and that's when I'm the best, is when I'm having a good time. And so I like to create a fun atmosphere for the room. I don't want wrestling practice or any type of practice to be work. I want it to be a choice to want to be there and to enjoy every moment, because it will get tough. Wrestling always gets very tough, all combat sports, and pretty much anything that you do, if you want to be successful at it, it's going to get very tough. And so the more we can get away from that grind and have a good time, play a game during warm-ups, play a game afterwards, dance, make a TikTok, whatever you want to do, it makes the process a lot smoother, and it makes the guys want to be there a lot more, which ends up getting a lot more out of the athletes, at least in my experience.
It brings engagement. I'm hearing what you're saying. In fact, this afternoon, my nephew and nieces passed by earlier. And then I said to them, we're going to talk about bringing fun to hard work. One of them is 4, one of them is 7, one of them is 9. So I got to sat down, interviewed them one by one. I said to them, wow, Coach Reece Humpheries, this is one thing he likes to do. He likes to bring fun into his game, but we do a little about hard work. And they all nodded down. I said, what do you think? Do you think fun is good or is not useful? Every 3 of them just start nodding down, and I record them one by one. And they all said, I said, what is important to bring fun? They said, for us not to be bored.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
That's a good point. And, they're young. And that age, if you can engage with children, of course, you're going to engage with an adult, And, of course, there are differences. But one thing they said, I said, what if you're bored? They said, we're not going to like it. We're not going to do it.
It's true. I mean, it's a little more easy to see on the youth scene, but the same thing happens for grown men. The college kids I work with, if they get tired or the monotonous every day, you drill for an hour, you wrestle live, they stop wanting to be there. They start getting into just like, it's mundane, and they don't grow. They aren't thinking. They're just doing what the coach tells them to. But when you change practice every day, and it's fun and it's exciting and it's, I want to be there. You can tell the coach wants to be there. You can tell the athletes want to be there. And I mean, it goes from youth to collegiate to senior level guys trying to make an Olympic team. The more they want to be there, the better they perform, and in that practice specifically, but overall. And because you're going to be nervous and you're going to be tired and stressed out on competition day, but if you can be a little more relaxed in those moments. And I tend to joke around during competition day too, trying to keep it loose and keep it light. And then I let them get nervous maybe like an hour before the competition. Okay. And then I think it's actually beneficial, because then you start to get nervous, you start to flex up, you start to get your heart rate up, and then it's time to do that. But before that, this is something I noticed when I started to go back to competing. I'd been retired in 2016, and then I came back to it. For beach wrestling was the first thing, and I was nervous like a week out. I was so nervous, and my heart rate was up, and I was tired, and I wasn't cutting weight, and I was in shape, and everything was good. And I started to realize, like, wow, being nervous will tax your whole body. And okay. So I had started to distract myself with music, with friends, with TV, and then I felt so much better. And then when it's time to come, it's time to compete, get nervous, get fired up, get your body ready to go into battle, totally fine. But I'm always trying to keep it loose, calm, and fun up until that point, and then it's time to be the man.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, some of this stuff you're saying is precisely true. And you know, when athletes they get ready to go on a match, whether it's wrestling, and wrestling, I think, has got a different nature. We warm up next to your opponents sometimes, you know, at least sort of my era. And then you get MMA guys that I work with, they're in a separate room. However, when the nerves kicks in, you know, the body is getting ready to move. That's what people don't realize, you know. So that nervousness not necessarily is bad. To keep in terms of, you know, physiology of the body, the hormones you're releasing, it is good to keep the heartbeat within 120 beats per minute, which you're going to be your optimal to be able to, you know, perform well for performance. And our game is a bad move, Reece, you know. So
It is. It's difficult to stay down there, though, when you're getting close to competition. If I start watching film, which is something that is very important, if I start watching my opponents wrestle, I feel like I'm in the match, and my heart rate gets spiked up, and I start to get nervous, and I got to calm myself back down. If you don't have that ability to calm yourself back down, you'll get stuck at that high heart rate, and you'll be tired. You feel like you worked out when you didn't. You kind of mentally did, and a little bit physically, because your heart rate is going crazy. It's like, why do I feel so bad for my next workout? And that's something you have to be able to control. So this is a good talk.
very much so. So if I can take what you just said, you know, in terms of the body, you get the fight or flight for the audience. So you got the fight or flight. Then the next stage, which is really bad, is the freeze. So the body shuts down for us to survive, and it touches the lower side of the brain, more so-called reptilian side of the brain, in terms of what we call polyvagal theory. But polyvagal theory is about the system of body being a safety, is a science of safety. You know, for us to come back to that social engagement, what you're talking about, you know, and being able to be receptive to the coach and getting ready for that heartbeat to be able to, you know, okay, it's not time for that yet, but it doesn't need to move at the moment. You're not in that fight or flight. And in terms of our kind of sports, you're actually going against another person. So the type of flow and engagement you're going to get into is very different nature. So a climber getting up the mountain, they're going in there very precisely, you know, the coming zone within the relationship with the mountain. But with us, it's different because the other guy is trying to do the same thing to you, getting you off balance. You know, as we know, wrestling works on your feet when you're moving, and it's very different type of a flow. So for you to be able to get that body moving in a match is very different being outside. And as you say, sometimes, I don't know what the rules are in today's world, but in our era, we might get two matches within, you know, within half an hour, we get two matches. So some of those.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Uh-huh.